part of this adjustment. You know, it's scary. It's scary to think, you know, you're going to step out and you're going to do something. And the devil telling you you're going to be a fool, people going to laugh at you, people going to make fun of you. Ain't nobody going to come to no church in the mall. Ain't nobody going to do that. What are you thinking? Man, there's all kinds of churches around here. The devil tell you that. There's all kinds of places that need a preacher. He'll preach there. But that wasn't part of the adjustment process. That wasn't part of what God had for me to do. And the pieces begin to fall together. Begin to get together there. Paul here was part of a plan of an adjustment. Not just a tweaking, not just a tuning, not just a little bit of something, but a whole lot of something. You know, I was watching the Bible series, and I've told several of you, last Sunday night was my favorite one. You know, I liked all the part of Moses and all that stuff, and Joshua and all that, and Samson. But I liked the part where my Savior died. And I looked at all that He suffered for. All part of the plan, the adjustment that was to be made. And after He died and He was risen and He came back and He sent the disciples out and began to tell them what they needed to go preach and what they needed to go tell people. And then there was this man named Saul. A man that was present when Stephen was killed. A man that instigated the stoning of Stephen. A man that actually was right. A big part of it was just as guilty as the rest of them. Man, I picked up the stone, but he was there and he got it going. A man that got stopped in the middle of the road for a major adjustment in his life in the direction that God wanted him to go. And he began to, he had the zeal that he had as an evil man. He had just as much zeal and desire working for God. And he began to travel and write books of the Bible and began to speak and witness and testify. And you know what? I liked the very last part when he was an old man. He was sitting there in that room and they came for him. That knock come on the door. And he knew who it was. He knew his time was close. And these words come out of his mouth. I've kept the faith. I fought a good fight. I've kept the faith and I've fought a good fight. And he went to the door and they took him. What was to happen? They beheaded him. Took his life. But along the way, from the time of Damascus to that point, all of the many souls that he reached, all of the many people that he witnessed to, all of the many people that he told about Jesus Christ, the adjustment that was made in his life, the direction that he went. Many of you here today in need of an adjustment in your direction. Maybe not as radical as the Apostle Paul, but in many times, you know, the Lord has a way of getting our attention. The Lord got my attention. I found that I'd go to church and I'd just be kind of going through the motions and I was kind of miserable and I was trying to do the best I can, but I knew deep down in my heart there was a direction I needed to go. But I just didn't know. And the Lord began to speak to me and He said, He got my attention how? Well, I was a pretty miserable guy. I remember when I was running from preaching, I didn't want to be a preacher. I didn't want to. I told the Lord, I said, I'll teach Sunday school, I'll sing, I'll help Bible school, I'll do whatever, but Lord, I don't want to preach. I don't want to do that. People don't like preachers. People run from preachers. Your friends don't like you no more when you're a preacher. You know, they feel uncomfortable around you because you're a preacher. That's just a lie. Because I found out, a lot of my friends who, after I finally said, Lord, after he beat me to death and I was miserable, and I said, finally, Lord, okay, I will, ease up. He didn't strike me blind, but boy, he beat me to death. He wore me out. I was miserable. But I found out after that, you know, a lot of my friends who I thought wouldn't have anything to do with me because a preacher kind of makes them uncomfortable, that they had respect for me. I had plenty of them that I'd gone to school with and people I grew up with told me, proud of you. A lot of them would send me little messages and things that I'd think, hey, they ain't running from me. That was a major adjustment. And I began to preach and I began to minister for the Lord. And it come another point in my life where I knew there was another adjustment to be made. And I knew I had to go in another direction, and I got to pretty much the same point I was when I ran from Colin. I got miserable again.